everyone. Welcome to Author Nation Interviews. This is the podcast that propels your author career to new heights, and I'm your host, Melody Ann. In this episode, we are delving into the idea of gamifying your author career. It should be fun. So get ready for a captivating and lighthearted conversation that's going to be brimming with invaluable insights, all to help you thrive. As a member of the Author Nation community, you can unlock a treasure trove of resources at authornation.online. From expert writing tips to savvy marketing hacks, we've got you covered. Okay, ready? Grab your favorite beverage and maybe a bingo card as I introduce our guest. USA Today best-selling author Kelly McClimer published her first historical romance novel with Kensington Books back in 2000. In 2009, she got her rights back to historical romance novels and embarked on the indie author path, which included writing, production, and marketing. In 2018, she founded Hack Your Muse Coaching to help authors get from idea to published author a little more quickly. In 2024, she will publish her first length nonfiction book, which I'm excited to ask her about, The Quantumized Career. Let's welcome Kelly. Hello, Kelly. I would love to hear a little bit about your journey from historical fiction or historical romance fiction to muse, right? To hack your muse, to now being a nonfiction author. Can you just give us a brief overview of that journey?
Well, I will say my writing journey started way back in high school when I worked for my school newspaper. And I used to do movie reviews and I did articles on what was happening around the school. And I totally did not do sports. Someone else handled the sports.
Yeah.
So I always knew I wanted to write. And I guess I did start with nonfiction, so to speak. But novels are my first love. And I was back in the day, needed to get through an agent and get an editor and publisher behind me. And that was quite a journey. And then I did that for a while, and that's good. I sold some YA to Simon & Schuster, same path, and it is selling, which I didn't realize until I became an indie author, because you first have to sell the agent on your book. And then once the agent hooks you up with the editor, you have to sell the editor on your book. But that's just like an audience of one. My indie publishing career, I really didn't, I put it up on Amazon and I'm like, okay, it's going to sell. And of course it didn't. And then I had to figure all of that stuff out. And slowly I've learned that I'm selling to my readers, and that means my description and my cover and anything that I talk about needs to give them what I call now the lean in factor, which is when they hear it, they're like, I want to know a little bit more about that. And that is not necessarily easy to do, right? But the secret to doing marketing with the lean-in factor is that you do not have to actually sell. You can just test. You can do a little tiny test. You don't have to say, I wrote a book about. You could say, have you ever read a book about this subject? Or, or you could say, oh, I love Queen Victoria. Like, say, for example, for my historical romance, I could say, how do you feel about Queen Victoria? Not that I would do that, right? But if I got the lean-in factor, then I might be able to say, okay, maybe you'd like my books. So that
nice
has been my journey, and I think I'm going to learn more. I've been writing for over 50 years, and I've learned a lot about it every single year from every single person.
Brilliant. Thank you. That sounds like a really interesting journey. And what I love about you is about gamifying, right? So I want to talk about how you have gamified your career and how that has personally helped you with your writing and your marketing. Because I know being an author, especially an indie author, is tough. So how have you used gamifying personally?
So I can say that when I first started to write, one of the gamification elements we don't actually recognize is deadline. A deadline is like the urgency, the time factor, clock is running out, I have to get done before here. And, in a traditional career, you have your deadline, your author has set it, all is, determined, and you have to set those deadlines for yourself. And I don't know if anyone else in your audience or you suffers from this, but when I set a deadline, I'm not really that interested in meeting that deadline. I'm like, "Who does she think she is telling me I'm gonna meet this deadline?"
Yeah.
So, I have been going to writers' conferences and talking to writers about this issue. How do you get this done? How do you get your butt in the chair, get the work done, make sure that it's timely? And we have all these little tiny games we play with ourselves. And one of my favorites is sprints. And there's a couple of different, like you can sprint with other people. Usually for me, sprinting with other people works a lot better than again sprinting for myself because I'm like, who do you think you are? You're not going to get that done. Go do the
Yeah.
dishes. I'm terrible to myself. It's not fair.
I
But
think that's very normal.
I will say I've met a lot of other writers who are the same way. And, just for example, for novelists, NaNoWriMo goes on in November, and
Yeah.
it's really a huge game for authors to get, or aspiring writers to get 50,000 words down on a project,
Yeah.
which is a big deal. Once you've got that 50,000 words, you're over the hurdle.
Oof.
So
Yeah.
but, within NaNoWriMo, there are little groups that help each other. They set up, oh my gosh, groups on Discord, groups in real life. And there's for anybody who lives in a meetup area, like California is great for this. When I visit my daughter in California, I go to the Shut Up and Write that's closest to me. And I know it's a little bit of a rude title, but they're marvelous. You just
Yeah.
go for a couple hours to a coffee shop or wherever they're meeting. You're all writing, and there's like this energy that just gets you writing. And then you look up and you're like, oh, wow. And you get a little bit of time to talk, but it's
Yeah.
about writing, not
Yeah.
about talk.
That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the games you've designed. Now you've designed one called Cream. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
So Cream is my newest game, and it came about because I have clients who love the writing the book part and hate the marketing part. And one of my deepest insights over the last 2 years is that you actually have to start thinking about selling your book before you're ready to sell it. And I know we kind of know that, but it can, I totally 100% admit, thinking about selling the book can kind of mess up your creative mojo. So you have to do it in a way that can be fun and, like you were saying, very lighthearted. And so I have my clients doing that, and then I've been talking to a lot of people who have books, and they're like, "Well, what do I do to market it?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you do?" And I've noticed so the biggest game that authors, especially indie authors, do is launch, right? That's like a huge, expensive, intensive, exhausting game. And then what do you do? And so I thought there are lots of other people who know how to launch. I'm not going to get into that. I've done it. It makes me tired. I don't really want to do it, multiple times a year. So what about just actually showing up for the marketing on a regular basis? Well, that's uh, my least effective skill, I would say, in terms of a writer. Being consistent, because I had a lot of things on my plate until just recently. And I was always getting pulled away to do other things. So, my priorities went to the bottom, and marketing went to the very bottom, stuck under, like dirty newspapers. And so I created this game, and I used ChatGPT, which is another fun thing for authors to do. I do not recommend writing with it. Totally recommend brainstorming with it, shaking things loose. So I'm like, I want to create a simple game to do my marketing every week. And I created it for me, share with other authors that I'm working with. And I got huge lean-in factor. So basically, I said to ChatGPT, okay, what are the 5 biggest things you need to do? Or I forget what I called it, but right now I'm calling it columns because it's a bingo game. So you go 5 down, 5 across, 5 diagonal, and you win your week. And so the columns are cream, they're collaboration, readers. I started with reviews, and then I went to readers because readers are our bread and butter. And I'm like, I'm not giving that the right thing. And then events, because we do things with our readers. And then advertising, which is everything. I mean, from, an ad you do on your own website, which is free to you, but looks like an ad to your readers. And then I did media, which would include podcasts, include interviews, you can, pitch an article to a magazine, especially for nonfiction authors. I really like to recommend that for your topic area. If there's a magazine that publishes articles on that, I completely recommend pitching an article, because then you put yourself in your bio as author of, and people who are interested in that topic might look it up. So then I talked to a couple of my writers. They liked it. And so we started getting together once a week to do this. And then I had, unfortunately, my mom passed away, and I had to kind of take myself out of marketing for a little bit. And so we're starting that back up. But I played the cream game and tripled my sales. And then things happened, didn't play the cream game, and my sales started to go back down. So I'm back at it. So I just know it works. And what I'm looking forward to doing is actually getting some data over the next year. I like data. That's I play with myself. I know many people do not like to play that game. I like to play it. I was so excited. I really did not do very much when I was first playing the game. I just I reached out to a friend to mention my book for the collaboration. I did get an ad at BookBub. That's a big thing. I reached out to my readers, which I hadn't been doing. And so it was like a great prompt to remember. And the thing about the game is, this is a marketing game. So you're not allowed to reach out, like a post saying, oh, I'm so happy today is Mother's Day, does not count. You would have to be a post that says, today is Mother's Day, and my book about mothers is, on sale, or, is available. It has to be a marketing post to keep honest. And so this is what I discovered. Keeping myself honest is actually really good at getting me to do the work, and it doesn't take very long. And so as I've been developing it, I started breaking things down, because, if you wanted to do something really big, like I like to do something for Christmas around Victorian historical romance. I like to include other authors, and those are steps. So you can actually, mark your little spot if you reach out and invite someone to that. So every piece of that allows you to win, to fill in your blank and win your week and know that you're doing something, instead of thinking, all right, I'm excited about this game, so I'm talking about it too much.
I love it. No, it sounds fabulous. It sounds fabulous. And you're talking about other people, and I wanted to ask you, because you've been an author for quite a while, I want to talk about the feedback loop, right? So a lot of authors are afraid to read their reviews, right? They, you get, and you get good reviews, and you're going to get some reviews that aren't so hot. It's going to happen. So can you talk a little bit how you deal with the feedback loop, both the positive and the negative?
So this is one of the things that I've been working with, and why I started to work on the lean in concept with my clients, is that
Hmm.
if you bring the whole book, right, and people reject it, it just feels so big. And they really have rejected your children. They don't understand it. They're allowed to do it, but it just stings no matter what. So, you know, doing it a little bit at a time is good. But the way that I look at, because I actually think that we should ask the readers on our loop for reviews, and I don't know that we necessarily should um, follow up with them, or I actually like the idea of, if you've asked the readers on your email list for a review and you get one, I really think you should say thank you. But if you're very sensitive, I don't know that you need to read it. But I'm going to go back to Chat GPT. And so one of the things you can do, if you feel like it, and so is, you can dump like maybe your top 10 reviews in your top uh, 10 bottom reviews, and you can dump those into Chat GPT without even looking at them, right? Just cut, or have someone else do it. Cut, paste, and then ask Chat GPT for some insights for what people have said about your book. Like, what are their favorite tropes? What character did they like the best? And then pull that information out so that you get data, but without the necessarily little sting of, oh, they didn't give me a 5 star.
Yeah.
Uh, how could they not like
Yeah.
this?
Oh,
I have
I
this
love
all the
that.
time in my books.
Yeah,
But
I love that. Yeah.
there's
No, it's
information there, right? And I mean, truthfully, if a reader reviews your book, that is a huge thing, because how many people do not review books?
yeah.
And you just have to take that moment to pause and say thank you. Even and bad reviews do sell books, because if somebody says, I have one of my books in my historical romance series that there is a bad review because it's too sexy, that sells that book.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but it's also a signal to readers
Yeah.
who don't want books that are too sexy,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because then readers who aren't going to like it aren't going to read it.
Yes, exactly. You're not going to get other people coming along and buying it who just really aren't your target audience. I did a solo show several years ago, and the gentleman who was helping me, and one of the people who were helping me and training me, he said, look, if you can't read your reviews, give them to a friend. This is before ChatGPT. Give them to a friend and have them read them, and have them tell you all the good stuff, and then have them tell you constructive feedback, and tell them to take out the negative if you can't handle, if you're too sensitive. And so that's kind of what you're asking ChatGPT to do, is to take out the negative and just give you back what's going to be useful for you.
Exactly, and the fact that it can do that is kind of amazing. I
Yeah.
I was actually really impressed, because, I hope your authors are doing their competition research, and, that's another thing ChatGPT can help you with, right? Because sometimes you're looking and you can't quite see, what is in this book, but then you put in the description and some of the reviews, and you start to find out. It's a really good tool and kind of a fun game to play.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I've often said to my authors that, they're like, oh, I don't want to look at the other books, but it's really good information. It's like really good information. So that's always an ongoing thing. I want to talk about your upcoming book. Is this your first uh, nonfiction book?
It's my first full-length nonfiction book. Yeah,
It is your
I've done
first full-length.
nonfiction articles before, and of course, I did my book review and movie
Brilliant.
reviews
All
for my
right.
newspaper, but
Awesome.
many years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the quantumized Career is the name of the book, and it addresses changes in the workforce. So how does the concept of adapting to change apply to authors? So what insights, could you give authors, and what might they find in your book?
So, to be honest, I so appreciate your asking that angle, because I was at a business conference, a marketing conference, trying to learn how to sell and do things. And I ran into someone else who was starting up her own business, but was not an author. And we bonded over how different the workplace is now for people. And it was just a random conversation. But I mentioned how different writing is. Again, when I started, it was a very much wait, hurry up and wait. So you get all your queries out, you wait for an agent to be interested to see your manuscript, then, to request your manuscript, and then to send it out to editors, and then an editor to actually make an offer, and then it's a very time-consuming process. And when you are writing for yourself, you're the one that holds everything up, and you're the one, and you have to understand so many more pieces of the puzzle that you didn't understand. And your choice is always to do what a publisher would do, right? It's like, are you going to be your own publisher, or are you going to pretend that the universe is your publisher? Because the universe is not going to do as much for you as you could do for yourself. And, I was talking about that. And so she approached me. She said, I think we should write this book. And I said, I think nonfiction. And okay, you can laugh at me. I said, I think nonfiction will be easier to market than fiction. So I totally want to do it.
Yeah.
So again, with my mom had some health issues, and it slowed us down, but we've been slowly and steadily working on it. And this is where I developed the lean in factor. So we have actually discovered who our audience is by talking to different people of different ages and in career positions. And we know because we've done the lean in factor, we know who our primary audience is, who our secondary audience is, and we have an idea of who might drag along. So that is going to affect what we do going forward. And it has been fun. It is in some ways easier to write a nonfiction book.
Oh, interesting.
Because that might just be me, but I have a real hard time outlining fiction. I kind of have a shape, and I get that down, and then I see what happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes the shape, but with fiction, I think about what I'm trying, what my message is, how I'm going to get it across. And this is a tip that I tell my clients all the time, and they're always shocked, because a lot of times when you do nonfiction, you think you're talking to people's brains, and you're not. You're talking to their hearts. It doesn't matter what you're writing. The only exception might be if you're doing a home improvement manual, then maybe you are really just talking to their brains. Although, if you've ever fixed anything that was broken, the feeling of like, yes, I did it.
Well, and the nostalgia of the item, right? If you're fixing something in your home, I love certain aspects of my home, right? So
exactly, you just feel so accomplished. You've taken care of your home.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was going to get dark here.
That's okay. So as we're wrapping up, I know that you've offered a resource called the Hack Your Book Marketing Game Workbook. And so I just wondered if you could just tell the audience, maybe give us a sneak peek what they might expect for this, and where they can get it.
Okay, so I gave you a link that is a direct link. They do not have to opt into anything if they don't want to. I gave you a link to put in the podcast. It's just a direct link to just download the resource. Then I'm going to have it on my website. I've been holding back. I've been really trying to develop it and make sure it was right before I spread it around. But what it does is it gives you a copy of the cream card. And it's really simple, little bingo based card. And then it gives you activities to do. And I wanted someone to be able to win their week without spending any money at all, because I think that's important. And so there are plenty of activities that do not require much money. And all of the activities are meant to be pretty quick. So you should be able to win an entire week, filling one column across or whatever in under 2 hours. So, it's like writing sometimes, and the business is more important for the nonfiction authors than the consistent marketing. But if you can do 2 hours of consistent marketing, your sales are going to go up, as long as you're aligned with your client, which is a whole different topic. So, and the other thing I have is the mindset shift you need to go through, and examples of things to do to fill out each column. And I encourage people who try it out to make it their own, to send me insights or ideas that they have so that I can improve it for the people who are using it, because it's really just meant for you to be able to get to the end of the week and say, I did 5 things marketing my book. I am good. And then down the line, to see the little sales line. And I don't think you're going to get that hockey puck, right? This is not meant for hockey puck. This is meant for that slow but steady increase.
Yeah, which is the best, right? Because usually what happens after the hockey puck is there's the hockey stick, there's a huge drop. And this is one of the big problems with launching. There's this big boom, I've sold, 100 books or 500 or 1,000, whatever it is. And then it's like a hockey stick, and then it drops off, and the author doesn't do anything after that. And they're wondering why there are no sales. So this is brilliant. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Kelly. This has been great. Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, and I hope everybody has some fun.
Oh, absolutely. I hope so too. And to the audience, thank you so much for joining us today on Author Nation Interviews. I hope you have found this conversation fun and motivating. So don't forget to visit authornation.community. And, as Kelly was talking about those writing sprints, we do them every Monday in the community. So join us for that. And thank you so much for joining us. And I will see you next week. Thank you.